All right, welcome to another episode of the Playbook by Charlie. Today's guest is a coach who's been shaping athletes for years, and not just in skill, but also in mindset. He's the founder of Next Level Performance, a program that's about building players to dominate on and off the court. And I know this firsthand because he was my college coach, and I can tell you his approach is what athletes need, especially in today's day and age. So we're going to be diving into what truly to develop an athlete with an elite mindset, the role of parents in their athlete's future, and why discipline is the foundation for success, both in sports and in life. Coach Brian Seaton, welcome.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure. I love it. I love it.
Of course, of course. So, Coach, before we get started, can you share a little bit about your journey?
Well, I've been in my current role as owner of Next Level Performance for the last probably about 15 years now. So, and before that, I was like the membership manager, the fitness manager, the trainer, the everything for a company called Hacks, which was one of the original companies in Southern California that
Hmm.
hosts like a lot of tournaments and stuff like that. Prior to that, I was a manager at 24 Hour Fitness. And then prior to that, I was a college basketball player. So I kind of just kept moving over and like seeing, oh, what's up with that over there? To the
Yeah.
next, move to the next thing. And now I'm here. I got for a while, like you said, I coached at Mount Sac College, more so just for the experience, just to learn. A lot of guys do it to move up in coaching and whatnot, but I was trying to do it to learn what I needed to teach the kids to make them more suited to play at the next level. And then after that, I coached at the I'm sorry, at the high school level, at St. Anthony's High School in Long Beach, which we were really successful. I learned a lot of stuff. And the cool thing about it is, I coached under Coach Maloney, well
Hmm.
respected, great coach. I played for Coach Maloney, as you did.
No.
There's things that he taught that were eye-opening for me that I had to learn. And there's things that Coach Cav at the high school level I coached under that he taught.
Hmm.
You'd be surprised without them probably ever even sitting in the room together. There's a lot of things that overlap. And was success. Like he had each of them had different little things that they might do, but there's a huge
Yeah,
overlap. And I consider that overlap to be what success looks like. And I'm sure
gotcha.
go to a different place and it's a big overlap with what they're doing with their own little twist, which that's what I've done is I took what they both did that they overlapped and made that a foundation and then with my own little twist for my personality and whatnot. And here we
Hmm.
go.
And that really shows essentially one, how you've been able to take all this in and get little tips from all these different places that you've been at. So as far as when you were growing up as a ball player, you were quite the ball player yourself, correct?
Yeah, I did my thing.
Hmm.
I feel like I underachieved because of lack of direction, but that I was like people know what I was capable of, and honestly, most people that I played with later always
Hmm.
thought like even right now, like if I go to like the gyms and stuff that I would play at, they're like, "Well, you didn't play professionally?" Like, nah, I never played professionally. I did play at Mount Sac College, and I ended up going from there to Hope International University, and then finished at Cal State Hayward at the time, but now it's East Bay. That's at all
Gotcha.
those places, but it was honestly for me, it took for me to get into situations where I got to play against pros and realize
Gotcha.
the gap wasn't that big. And
Yeah.
I never attacked it like a pro. Like if I had attacked it
Mm.
like a pro, then things probably would have been a lot different. But I had no idea how close I could get without even approaching it like that. So that's a
Hmm.
regret of mine, but it worked out.
Got you, got you, got you. So through your years of seeing all these players, in your opinion, what do you think separates the good players from the great ones? And not just physically, but also mentally.
Um, Honestly, I mean, there's a ton of things that you could list, but probably the one thing that I've noticed over the years that stood out more than anything was there's players that like let's say something negative happens in the game and it infuriates you. Players black out, they do whatever they're gonna do. Well, I would have find a few players here and there, and part of it is because they were raised a certain way. Part of it is the respect that they maybe have for me or for the coaching or whatever.
Mhm.
But in that rage, everything goes up. You're stronger, you're faster, you're more aggressive. You're not coachable usually. And so
Yeah.
players that can be in that rage but still hear the coach, it's like when Super Mario Brothers, when he gets the star, he can go wherever.
Yeah.
But most people just can't do anything with it because they just, they've also lost, they blacked out. They're just doing whatever. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is be able to have, I guess I call it like a controlled rage where
Mm.
you get a trigger, but you're not just rogue doing whatever. You're actually still coachable in that moment. And good things happen when that happens.
Got you, got you. And would you say that's the one habit that every athlete should try to develop if they really want to stand out?
I don't think you can just develop that particular habit. I think that
Hmm.
comes naturally from your foundation. So like if you don't
Hmm.
respect the coach, then he can't tell you what to do when you're in rage. Does that make
Got
sense?
you.
Like you gotta
Mm.
have that creates that. I think a controllable thing that players can do is just have daily habits like consistency. So like for
Hmm.
my kids in particular, like my kids are 11, 8, and 6 and they have daily workouts that they do on their own. Like literally, they do their work. They come home from school, they do their homework
Hmm.
outside. They got to shoot on the shooting machine. They do box jumps. They do Vertimax. They do, different strength exercises on their own, and that's part of their daily routine. And it doesn't. It's not. It sounds like a lot, but it's probably like 20, 30. But that stacks up and it creates a habit of work, which if people have a habit of work, it's easy to switch out the content of that habit. But when people just don't have a work habit, then that's hard to create. And so they do on their own. Rarely do I have to ever intervene or anything. They just do their own thing.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes I have to check them like, did you do all your shots or did you, it is on their back, but they'll do their stuff and they there's no pushback about it. And if they do it, then they get like 30 minutes on their iPad or something like that. So there's an achievement attached to it. But
Got you.
realize that they've created such a habit that most people, like I know high school kids that don't have a habit. And that's one big thing. So daily habits of consistency of something. And then secondly is just the mentality to not like the next play mentality. Like I
Mm.
want this shot to make me miss another shot. It's bad enough I missed the shot, but that psychologically could make me miss another shot if I don't
Yeah.
have a strong mentality. And just a lot of kids just don't have that. Like the fact I got my shot blocked, I'm worried about if people are looking at me. And not only did you block my shot, now you just blocked my confidence. I'm going to miss the next shot. Now
Mm.
I can't dribble as well. And it's because you're stuck in that previous play when the next play is the most important play.
Got you, got you. And I want to hold that thought for a minute. You had touched on as far as your kids going out and doing these things by themselves. I know we talked about it off air. As far as parents having a role in their child's success, do you think that this stems from them seeing this from you, or have you just over the time taught them like, hey, consistency, hard work is how you get from point A to point B, and it's kind of just as they've gotten older through the years, just like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, building a routine of hard work that's now engraved in. Do you think it's in the kids already, or do you think it's a little bit of both?
I think it's a combination of both. And then
Hmm.
frankly, I don't know that they understand it. It's as a kid to over
Yeah.
easy as an adult to assume what a kid would understand. And how would they understand? Because I'm talking about the habit that they're creating is going to benefit them 5 years from now. It's going to make such a big gap between their competition that nobody can.
Yeah.
But they've
Yes.
never had that big of a gap. Like they've never gone 5 years of a habit and seen what it's
Hmm.
going to be. And so they don't know. They're just taking my advice. They're doing what they got to do to get to their iPad, but it's a normal routine for them. And so there's not a lot of pushback about it. And I think after they get, 15 years old and they see that this is the difference between them and the competition, then they can double
Hmm.
up on that work. And then it will be the driving force will be something else because they'll see the benefit of it. I think that
Yes.
they don't understand it. They just, I got to do my work. Like I got to go to work. Like,
That's true.
I don't know
That's
what.
true. And you said it and I feel like also what also helps the kids as they get older, and you mentioned it, once they see the gap, like, oh, I was, me and that kid were the same, and now I'm doing this and I'm way up here and he's down here. And they start to realize, okay, if I keep doing this, then I'm just going to keep building and building and building. So I like that. So parents, as we kind of talked about, they can be their child's biggest asset or the biggest obstacle.
Yep.
What's one piece of advice that you give a parent who wants to see their kid truly be successful at basketball?
So one of the things that I see parents do that affects everything is, the
Hmm.
parent really wants their kid to do well. And everybody would want their kid, like the coach wants your kid to do well. But the coach is not putting the kid before the team. But the parent is in a position where they probably would. And there's times when what the parent wants versus what the coach wants for the team do not align. And in those
Okay.
situations, the parent may badmouth the coach or undermine what the coach is saying or whatever the case. And as soon as you do that, oh, the coach doesn't know what he's talking about, blah, blah, blah. And now that kid can't hear the coach anymore because he's had private conversations about how the coach doesn't know what he's talking about. And so when the coach is coaching that kid on something that you align,
Yeah.
he can't even hear the coach anymore. Like I had an issue with this with my girlfriend and my kids. One of my kids had a teacher that just wasn't a very good teacher. And
Hmm.
there were times where she would mention how the teacher wasn't a good teacher in front of the kid. And I had to check it completely because it's like if that teacher has something to offer, then the kid can't even receive that now because he's under the assumption that the teacher doesn't know anything. And even a person that doesn't know much may know something. And you're gonna be
That's
in, why not keep the kid available to learn from them? Unless you're planning on moving along or whatever, and then you can say whatever you want. And that even that, I don't think that's that healthy. But I think that's one of the biggest issues that parents have is undermining what the coach, and mind you, in most cases, the parent chose that coach. And then as soon as things aren't working out, now you and the kid are undermining the coach's authority, coaching from the sideline, whatever the case, or just bad mouthing the coach in the car or whatever. And then now you've weakened the kid's ability to learn from that coach, even if they have something to offer, which is just, it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Is there anything, and I guess it kind of depends on the age of the child or the kid. Is there anything the kid can do as far as maybe tune out? Because when you're growing up, your parents, I mean, most kids are going to think dad and mom are always right. Whatever it is they're talking about, it don't matter. Teacher, coach, whoever, they're always right. Is there
They
any,
think they always wrong too.
oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Is there anything that the kid can do in this sense of maybe tuning out the outs or just tuning out all outside noise? There's a certain outside noise to kind of help them make sure stay focused in on what, their coach or the game so they can kind of block out the outside noise.
It's you know what it's really difficult. Like I've had situations where the kid is in such a crossfire between what the kid wants, what the parent is yelling, what the coach is yelling, and that's three potential different things. The kid may want something, the coach wants something, the parent wants something, and if they don't do what the coach is saying, they sit on the bench. If they don't do what the parent's saying, they got to take that car ride home, this and this and that. And so it's like it takes a really mentally stable person. There's probably even NBA players that are dealing with that.
Yeah.
And I can't say that I know what a kid can really do that works. I know that you can try
Mhm.
to, but a 8-year-old, if he goes to the rim and gets his shot blocked, he should try to dunk, but I don't think it's gonna work. Like it's probably not gonna
Yeah.
work. He just doesn't have the tools to do it yet. And most
Yeah.
kids don't have the tools to know the correct path well enough to say, I'm blocking out what my parent is saying, or maybe I'm blocking out what the coach is saying. Like they don't
Mhm.
know the path. Like the path is still murky to them. So it's very difficult. I think the best thing in that situation is for the kid to have honest conversations with both their coach and their parent, explaining the confusion that has been created. And then it's up to the adults to step up and say, well, we need to come to a better solution so we can get the best out of this kid. But
Yeah.
otherwise, kids don't like they don't have that yet. They don't have the discernment to say, oh, this mom's wrong and coach is right. I'm going to do this. Or vice versa. They don't know. And so they're just looking for the
Mhm.
path of least resistance. In most cases, It's I'm gonna do what my mom is saying so I don't get yelled at in the car for 30 minutes on the way home.
That's true. That's true. So you've been blessed enough to coach for a long time now, and you've seen your generation of basketball, my generation of basketball, and then now the younger generation of basketball. However, I feel like in this generation, and correct me if I'm wrong, they could be all generations, there's more distractions now more than ever. I mean, you have social media, you have, highlight culture, instant gratification, all these kind of things. How do you reach these young athletes in a way that kind of sticks with them?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. I don't know what I mean, it is difficult. It's probably the most difficult thing because a lot of
Okay.
people, like my generation, is like, oh man, y'all just on your phone all the time. Well, the phone is fun. Like the phone is fun for them. And then we take pride in the fact that we used to go outside and play. Well,
Yeah.
that's what was fun for you. Like that was fun for me. It's not like I was like, well, I'm not gonna do this and I'm gonna go do. No, we went outside to go play because it was fun. And if it wasn't
Yeah.
fun, we probably would have done something different. And so I don't take a bunch of credit for doing what's fun. But I will say there's a trick to it. So and I'll explain this to my kids. So and on top of that, there are still players that are really, really committed. There's kids that are really
Yeah.
committed. The two different things. One is teach them how to love the game. So
Okay.
teach them like it may be they need to go to a UCLA versus USC game and see what it really looks like. Or it may be that they have to, back in the day, I used to watch and one mixtapes. Well, that's not even thing.
Yeah. Mixtapes.
Like those are things that kids don't get to see anymore. But it's a thing. And so you got to teach them how to love the game. And then on top of teaching them how to love the game, there's a commitment level that they can get to if they can have a certain level of success. There's a commitment level they can get to if they get to a certain level of success. And so I've talked to my kids about this on numerous occasions. So let's say, for example, you go to Disneyland and you get on the teacups and you have a ball. That's
Mhm.
however, Space Mountain is more fun. And when
Yeah.
you get on Space Mountain, you're probably never going to go get on the teacups again. Like it's a different level. And so if
That's
kids
true.
learn how to work to get to the front where they're the one hitting the game winning three, and everybody celebrates, that's more fun than playing on your phone. Like,
That's
but a lot of kids never get a chance to experience that because they're just in the group and they don't get the opportunity because they're just not good enough yet. And so you got to be able to show them, you got to get them good enough early enough so they can get a taste of what Space Mountain's like, or what
true.
a coach in the huddle drawing up a play for you is like. Like there's a timeout, there's 10 seconds left, the ball's coming to you. That's a different feeling. That's a different experience than most people will get in basketball. And if they can get that early enough, then they'll chase that environment instead of, I'm just sitting on the bench clapping for my teammates and then I go to practice
Yeah.
and run like everybody else. Like that kid's not going to work as hard if they'll be more distracted if they've never experienced the higher level. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah, you want to build it in the days, as you touched on. I did used to love and enjoy going outside and playing basketball, and that was fun. So essentially, you're trying to build a way to build a bridge between it's not just work, but this is also it's a game essentially, and we can't make it as our phone is. It's a game to a sense, or you're on it, but to a sense of going outside, playing and trying to combine the two so the kids have fun while they're doing it. Be like, man, I actually love to do this instead of just thinking about it as, I got to go play basketball again or I got to go work again.
Yeah. And another thing is just educating them early on, the little I call it micro fun. The micro fun they have playing with their phone is
Hmm.
nowhere close to the macro fun that they'll have dunking on somebody. And you may have to delay your gratification a little bit, which is tough for kids,
Uh-huh.
adults. But if they understand that that's what they're doing, I'm delaying my gratification. Like even my 6-year-old the other day, he told me the last game he had, he didn't play as well as normal. And the earlier in the day, pretty much he just played with his iPad all day. It was a Saturday, kind of get
Yeah.
iPads. And so after the game, I told him, I was like, you weren't as focused. And that's why you didn't get so many steals and stuff like that. And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. I'm not playing with my iPad anymore. Like, he was like, he was able, I'm teaching him, he understands like
Yeah.
that's not as much fun as him ending the game with 10 steals and getting the championship versus I was playing on my iPad. And so he understands
Hmm.
that he's really smart though. And so, and then the
Yeah.
next day he played with his iPad again. Like he's back on it. Cried about it actually. But that's a big part of it is to teach them what they're losing by actually doing what they're being distracted by.
Yes, yes, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. So we got time for a few more questions. Everyone wants to play at the next level, of
Yeah.
course. So if you had one message that, you have a high school student who's watching this, they got visions of playing at college or the NBA. If you had one message to this high school student to kind of either some a piece of advice or something they could be doing, what would you tell them?
Okay, so one of the biggest things that I learned a long time ago is if you want to be an impact player on the high school level, you have to do something high school good. And what that means is it's not, oh, I fit in and I'm decent at this. Like, no, you have to be good. You got to look at these 15 players and be like, he's one of the best two or three at this skill that we have. And then you'll be called upon to do that. And then high school good is not college good. And
That's
so
true.
go on to college and have a role, you have to be like if let's say shooting's a thing. If you're a good shooter in high school, that doesn't make you a good shooter in college. It's a different level. And so you can't just be a decent shooter and be like, well, I'm gonna get minutes. You're not gonna get minutes. The better shooters are gonna get minutes if that's what you do. If you're a great defender, then you need to be a college great defender. You got to be a college
Mm,
great shooter. You got to be a college great leader or whatever your traits are, rebounder. It could be anything. And so, as much as you don't want to be, a one trick pony where you only do one thing, that will get you in the door so that you have the opportunity to work on some other things. So I was telling the kid the other night, if you're a really good defender and not a strong shooter, you can either go to shoot 360 or whatever and work on your shot and work on your shot and work on your shot, or
mhm.
you can lock up and be on the court and work on your shot during the game. And when you go 0 for 5, I'm going to leave you on the court because you're not even on the court for offense. You're on the court for defense. I can
Oh, yeah.
tolerate 0 for 5 because of what you're bringing to the table. Now,
Mm,
that 0 for 5 is more valuable than the 300 shots you shot at shoot 360 because you can.
mhm.
And then now you know exactly what shots you need to work on. And I'm not saying not just to jack up shots and
Yeah,
I'm saying you get real reps. But if you're sitting on the bench because you're not a great defender or a great shooter, but you're at shoot 360 trying to be a better shooter, but you're closer to a great defender than a better shooter, then
yeah,
you're dropping the ball because you could actually be getting better during the game. And what's it all for? Like it's to be in the game. Like you're doing this to be in
yeah.
the game. So
That
that's
makes sense.
you have to be college good at something. So you have to figure out what you do well, and then you have to master it. And then the off season is where okay, I'm a defender. Now I'm working on my shot to
Mm,
incorporate that.
gotcha.
And then next year I'll be a better penetrator. I'll be, whatever the case. So that's one big thing. And then the other thing is just understand what the commitment level that playing collegiate sports is. And a lot of players they don't even know the commitment level. And the way you know that you're prepared for that commitment level is you start
Yeah,
doing it early. So you be in the high school, start committing like a college player. And so you know that when you get to college, that won't be what chews me up and spits me out because I can't commit.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Being self-aware, essentially, the sacrifice level, and then
Yep.
again, as you mentioned, just leaning into your strengths. So, and I think that advice can be good for somebody who's super ultra talented and somebody that isn't. Because you
Yep.
can have a college player who might not be 6'5" and 6'6", but he's a sniper outside and shooting the ball. And that could take that to college to even the next level, depending on how much he sacrifices and how much he's trying to get there. So I want to talk about next level. If I'm a parent and I'm looking for a basketball program to take my son and daughter, what can I expect at next level?
Honestly, the biggest thing that I would say sets us apart is I played college basketball, I was in shape and all that stuff. And when I first started the program, I passed the eye test in terms of what you would look for in a coach. And people came to me, I coached
Mm-hmm.
kids. However, I was coaching kids the way I wanted to coach, the way I wanted to train. And training and coaching are two different things. So I was training mostly kids the way I wanted to train. And so we're doing a lot of moves, one-on-one moves and stuff like that. And I felt like I ended up failing a group of kids because although we would work really hard, we're doubling down on the work that I liked to teach, and they
Mm,
needed to learn different things. And so now, that I told you before, the reason I coached at Mount Sac College, the reason I coached at St. Anthony's High School was to learn what I needed to be teaching this younger generation. And so that's the biggest thing that separates our program from a lot of other programs is, and I see people do things and I'm like, I'm not saying that's wrong. That's part of that coach's journey to get to
hmm.
where he knows how to
Yeah.
teach what they need to know. And so, because a lot of people, like, this is all I do. And a lot of things I see people do is what I would have done 7 years ago. And the things
Gotcha.
I used to do 10 years ago, a lot of them I would never do now. Learn from great coaches, like do it like
Mhm.
this, do that. This matters, that doesn't at all. You could throw that away. And so I've learned over the course of years. And so, and I see, parents trying to coach their kids. I see coaches that don't really know trying to coach their players. I applaud anybody that's trying to help a kid. However, you could be also hurting the kid by making him feel like this is the way. And you have a small window to play sports.
Yes,
And
you
if
do.
you spend your time, your path is this because the coach doesn't know what you really need to know. This coach has
Hmm.
probably never coached a high school basketball game. This coach may have never coached a college basketball game. They may have never played a college basketball game. And even if they did, like I said, I graduated, played all conference, all that stuff, and didn't know how to coach. I could train you and I
Yeah.
could do some really good moves, but it still wasn't enough. And so I think that's the biggest thing with our company is, I have a lot of coaches that work under me, and most of them are players that I've coached or trained at some point or another. However, the overarching thing is like we're going to work on the stuff that matters, and you don't know what you don't know. And so most coaches, they might
Yeah.
be yelling at the kids and making them work hard and stuff like that. And I promise you, a lot
Yeah.
of look, and I'm like, that's not it. You
Yeah.
got to work hard, and
Mhm.
that's great. That's a big part of it. But
Mhm.
these things that you're working on don't translate to the next level. It's like college classes that don't transfer. Like you can take me,
Yeah.
these classes don't transfer, and these skills don't transfer to where you want to be. And the biggest thing I can say about that is Kyrie Irving is amazing. He could do
Yeah.
anything with if you teach
Hmm.
it that is not the guy to play like Kyrie Irving, he'll just be sitting there on the bench.
A
He
great example.
yeah, if you got a guy that's up here and you're there, but they both play like Kyrie, this guy's better. He plays. This guy sits on the bench because he can't space the floor like a guy that is maybe half the player that he is. He can't rebound like a player that's half the player he is. And we don't need two Kyrie Irvings on the court at the same time. And
Yeah.
so, and everybody's just not going to be him. And so, if you're not going to be him, you have to have the foresight to say, he's not going to be that type of player. Let me teach him how to be on the court and play the way that he will have an opportunity to play. And most people don't know.
Yeah, wow. That was great. That was a great example. And I look back at my own playing career and you said it best. I was blessed enough to be coached by you and Coach Clark. And when I first got to Mount Sac, I was very raw and it was kind of like didn't know how to play because I had never played at that level. And all my coaches I had previously they didn't really teach you how to play basketball. When I got there, I felt like my growth went from here to there quickly because I was able to be taught by basketball coaches that knew how to, teach the game in a way that made sense.
Yeah.
So I'm just very blessed for that. If you could go back to your younger self and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Honestly, it's kind of similar to what I was just explaining. And I remember vividly a day that we had a kid that came into the clinic. This is probably 12 years ago. I've been coaching for about 15, it's probably 12 years ago. And every phone call I would get, oh, my kid's pretty good and blah, blah, blah. He's nice. And then, they're talking about from the park league. And every kid that would come in, they'd be terrible. Every parent is, oh, he's so good. He really loves it. Okay. And then he comes in terrible. And so this particular kid comes in. I still remember his name, but he comes in, and of course, the parent thought he was so good. We get to our drills. This is when relatively early in my training. And so we're doing our crossovers and our betweens and our spins. He's falling all over the cones. He's terrible. And so I have I'm making a judgment about, the kid's level. And so he's just almost like he's in the way, like he's bad. And so, but he had been playing and stuff based on what his parents had been saying, but he's just bad. And so we get to actually scrimmaging at the end of the practice, and I'm like, hold up, he's actually pretty good. Like the kid is is actually solid. Like he's not good at what we're doing. And what we're doing is what I like to coach. And that's crossovers and betweens and spins and stuff like that. Or that's why I like to train.
Yeah.
He's not good at any of that stuff. But somebody has taught him how good spacing works, movement, cutting, like things like
Mhm.
that. And those things translate better for some players in a real basketball game.
Mhm.
So it was eye-opening for me because I had looked at him and made an assessment to say this kid's terrible, and then he played in the game, and I was like, hold up, the kid's pretty good,
Yeah.
and it was like mind blowing for me. I was like, hold up, I gotta change direction here, and that's when I started focusing more on coaching rather than training because I look at training more like skill building. I look at coaching more as understanding the game and spacing and cutting and timing, stuff like that. And so that was the day I literally looked and was like, I could do a better job of
Mhm.
blending the two. And so,
Gotcha.
I think both are important, but that's that. So to answer the question, I would have at an earlier point went into coaching more spacing, strategy, and whatnot, because this is the biggest thing. So let's say, like me personally, you could put me, I'm 46 years old. You could put me in an NBA game. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm better than, I'm not, that's not my point. But you could put me in an
Mhm.
NBA game and put me at the top of the key and do my favorite move and it fail against an NBA player. Because moves, for the most part, work against players that are at your level or lower. And so my daughter's really, really good. She can do a move on me. Maybe she catch me off guard. I wasn't trying that hard, but she ain't going to be able to do it again. Like you're not
Yeah.
gonna be able to do that move. I'm 46 and you're 11. You can't do that move to me again. It's not going to.
Mhm.
However, I'm in that same NBA game, and my guy, my teammate drives on the wing, and I slide to the corner because I understand spacing, and that guy helps a little bit. I can get a wide open shot because of the spacing, or my
Yeah.
guy plays and I can cut back door. I can get a layup because I understand when to cut. And that will translate even if I'm on the court with nine guys that are better than me. But
Mhm.
my moves will not work against players that are better than me. And so
Mhm.
it's a big difference between doing moves. Now, if I'm the best player on the court, moves are amazing. But kids go through these transitions of I'm in high school, I'm the best player on the court. Now I get to college, I'm the seventh best player on the court. My moves don't work.
Mhm.
Now,
Yes.
was I in high school learning how to play, or was I just learning moves? If I was learning moves, I'm about to sit on the bench for a year.
Yeah.
Learned how to play, then I can continue to play. And so that's one thing I would tell my younger self, which is make sure that the kids are getting a blend of the two, and the kids that physically really need the coaching of the spacing and the cutting and whatnot, make sure that they know that that's their game. And the kids that are blessed to be athletic enough to be the bigger, stronger, or more athletic players, then they can get away with moves for right now, but still need to learn the game because when you make that jump to the next level, then you may not be the biggest, strongest, or best on the court. And now
Yep.
you know how to play basketball. Like
Mhm.
it's simple as that. And most people don't have the foresight to know that. They don't know
Yeah.
that. So they just teach them what they want. And unfortunately it doesn't work out for most of those people. And hopefully the coaches learning. Myself, I had to learn, and hopefully those coaches are learning how to adjust what they'll do in the future for that next group of kids.
Yeah, yes, yes, that was great insights. And we could probably go for hours to talk about how, maybe the kids are seeing what they see at the NBA level and think that's what it takes to get to that next level. Or, in our case, it was you see the and one mixtapes or the mix people used to make mixtapes of other high school players, and we used to think, oh, they're so good because they're doing all these crazy moves and making all these crazy passes. So it's kind of like one of those things where really what's going to keep advancing you further in the game of basketball, knowing space, knowing how to read a pick and roll, knowing how to throw the ball into the post, knowing how to cut backstream when your man isn't looking at you. All those little things that aren't really come up on a highlight reel, but they're the things that, college coaches are going to see and they'll be like, I'm going to put him in because he knows how to do all these certain things. So what's the best place people to find you on social media, Facebook,
Our website is
and follow you and follow your program as well? Yeah.
yeah, well, our website is nlpbball.com. We also have an Instagram, which is the same. So it's nlpbball.com on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel, which is nlpbball.
Perfect, real easy.
Yeah, we don't really do the Twitter and some of the other stuff, but we're pretty active. Like we post stuff all the time on Instagram
Hmm.
mostly. We do some instructional videos and stuff on YouTube, but we're not hard to find.
Well, thank you, Coach. Again, this was amazing. Yeah, I took something from this. I just need to call you sometimes and pick your mind as far as on coaching goes. But I appreciate your time. I love looking at your videos of your family and your kids. I see them. Funny how when you were a coach at Mount Sac, he was little, and now.
Remember that Haley over there?
So again, appreciate your time and thanks for being on.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course, talk to you.
All right.